Hello? There we go. Thanks. All right. From the service I did, it was really simple looking. You just get the red dot to the green dot. Put in left, right, up, or down. Not hard at the beginning. You get 40 seconds to do a 10 by 10 maze. So really simple. Then it progressively got harder. You see there, that's level 50 out of 300. You just, right now, it would start out black and white, and then it goes to the colors are off by like 1 red, green, blue value. So you're not doing it by hand. And then you also got like 40 at the beginning and down to 10 seconds at the end. And so after that, I figured too easy, so I started to draw some lines and circles on it. And then people might, be looking at the difference in the walls and the background color. So then I started drawing alpha transparent rectangles on it, because really I didn't want it to be easy. So, and then I also started changing file formats in case that made a difference. Some people were telling me they just threw out any JPEGs and kept refreshing. So they kind of tried to combine them all. Who knows? And then eventually it got too easy even after all the rectangles. So I figured I'll just take 1/7 of the pixels and just throw them out. Just start drawing different colors all over the place. There were 2 teams that scripted it up pretty nicely, although they know that I bumped the level up to 300 at the end and neither of them could score, so it's kind of sad about that. I would like to see the source of the bots if anybody's got it. Who's next?
I enjoyed writing several services for oCTF over the years. Let's see, they were in no order: almost FTP'd, HT DVD BVDB. But it's so much funnier if I say it quickly. It's even more funny if CP says it. He does it so much better than I can.
I believe the challenge name was HD DVD BVDB.
Yes, exactly. And just the joy that I would feel in my heart hearing CP say that inspired me to write this service. So what this service was there was this daemon that would just kind of output a video file, and the poor recipient of the video file would have to figure out what in the heck is in there. They'd have to break it down, see what text or clues is in there to get the input necessary to change the flag and score. Originally, I just was making all these videos by hand, but after speaking to CP one night when I was almost done, he said, that kind of stinks. You should probably make it so that it gets a little harder every time automatically. Otherwise, we're going to run out of levels and people will be sad. And then I was pretty tired and wanted to stop working on this that night, so I was kind of giving him some flack about that. But I called Adam that night to get a second opinion, and he said, yeah, that kind of stinks. You should probably take care of that. So at that point, I pretty much rewrote the whole thing so that it would take a video, convert it, compress it, render text onto each frame, and then output that and get a little harder each time. It would do all these weird transitions, like it would do kind of Rubik's Cube style filters on the videos and change various aspects about it. It was fun to do, though, because it was really educational. In those several hours that it got rewritten in, I had to learn, let's see here, how to write a program in Perl that would render text onto a custom video format, and how to mess it up Rubik's Cube style and all sorts of jazz like that. And then the night before, maybe it was 2 nights before, I think it was the night before we actually left California for DefCon, I realized the hard way that the banner command, which is what I was using to render text onto these videos, is apparently not the same banner command all the time. There's apparently a BSD banner and there's a GNU banner. The one I based the program on was BSD banner and Slackware, and the contest was running on Debian, which had the GNU banner command, and so there was more education there. And let's see here, I wrote a chat program as, I think, part of the ice cream shop clue delivery kind of strategy. They'd give you some good clues and some misinformation as well, and half of the chat and banter that was in there came from Adam and I just being in a Yahoo chat one night, just some hacker chat room, and so we'd just pull out random quotes, change the names to protect the innocent, and enhance some of the more boring quotes to make them interesting, and a lot of them didn't even need to be modified. So there's one quote to this day I still can't understand. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it? What?
He's looking at me.
Yeah, I'm looking at him. You get out of the way. Wasn't it? A forklift will shift it goo.
It was. They had the most ridiculous things that, they didn't make any sense at all. It was great.
And that was just fun because apparently you can make a chat program in our chat server in, I don't know, like 4 lines of bash.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, by the way, we're going to release a bunch of our stuff so that you can actually see his videos as opposed to just hearing a description of them. And you get to play with all the other stuff, like stuff that nukes your boot sector and stuff CP made. And I had a backdoor in my chat program, which didn't really go very far because of the previous years where we were messing with everyone. They kind of knew if you download code from us, you should probably take some precautions before you run it.
That sounds like a great lead into Happy Days.
So, yeah. Adrian?
I helped out with a service last year that was IRC based. Merlin wrote most of it, so he deserves most of the credit, but he's not here right now, so I'm going to do the best I can. We had a couple IRC services, and we tried to encourage people to hang out in IRC with us, and we were going to give them hints about how to score and what to do. But as it turns out, a lot of people had their own custom IRC clients, and even a couple of teams that were doing really well in the contest couldn't stay in our IRC channel because they trusted the server too much. And we ended up crashing a couple of computers by just catting a 10 megabyte ASCII art of Longcat. And this actually brought down a couple of computers, I believe, from the Facebook guys. So we found that pretty amusing. I think Big Pimpin' Thugalots was one of the few teams that actually managed to stay in our server for most of the time without getting disconnected. And they scored most of our, I think they scored most of the IRC points. But, I can't even remember what most of the flags were and how they worked.
Yeah, they were all.
Who's next?
All right. Does anyone remember Happy Dance? Okay. Happy Dance was probably the best service I ever wrote. It took me 8 months total because I didn't really know anything about Firefox development, and it was two-faced. You go to a webpage and you're presented with what was that movie? Boondock Saints? No, there's an animated GIF of.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, that was after you got it wrong. You presented a login.
Anyway, I don't remember. You go to the webpage, get a login. You try and attempt to log in, and it tells you you're missing something. And just under the text that says you're missing something is a link to addons.mozilla.org, which we're spoofing locally. So you go there, and because it looks like addons.mozilla.org, Firefox implicitly trusts it. And it takes one little click for you to install the Happy Dance authentication extension, which authenticates you to Happy Dance authentication portals. And I was really kind of surprised how many people did this. I think it was just about everyone playing the contest. And they install it, restart Firefox, Firefox comes back on, and like, well, I got that link after I went to this service. I'm going to go back to this service. I'm going to log in again. Well, this time you fail the login, and you get told why. Like, your password's wrong. You have no access. But something's different. And you go back, like, what's the most basic thing I can do to a login form? SQL injection. So use the typical textbook example of SQL injection, and there you go. You scored. You owned the flag. You're scoring oCTF now. Shit, that was easy. Why was that so easy? Well, because as soon as you installed the extension and restarted Firefox, it would send a plain text AJAX call back to a local server with all the stored passwords in the Firefox password manager.
Keyword plain text, which means it was on the whole game and nobody said anything. All you had to do was sniff and wonder why your passwords were leaving your box. And nobody did this, including you feds who got raped.
I'm only a dog. I only know things like sit and food and rape. So yeah, the AJAX call would go out, send all your passwords to our local server in plain text, and the return data would be arbitrary commands that would execute on the system. At first, it didn't really do anything. Give them a few hours. So every time a new window opens, every time Firefox starts, it does this. So the traffic increases like 20% with plain text passwords going back and forth. And after a while, and I'm kind of, so I feel we're at a HackerCon. We're playing in a hacking contest. These are hackers. They're not going to be dumb. They're not going to have stored passwords in Firefox.
They're not going to log in from work boxes that, have stored credentials that they use for work on major, Fortune 1000 company websites like, I don't know, Cisco or Sun or Oracle or internal sites with product licenses or universal gateways like 1.1.1.1 on their corporate networks.
And it was a lot of fun because it was so fucking easy. Like, you scored. Yeah, you scored. You win. And no one really looked at the source code because they, kind of freaking couldn't. It was obfuscated out to about 47 pages if you were to print it out of size 2 text. Because I did this whole custom obfuscation in Python and a bunch of other stuff that was all in math, like cosine and sine waves, and it just decoded to actual text. And no one actually solved it. In fact, I believe 1 or 2 teams tried to decode it manually by hand. And I think they got pretty far after the first day. And I think one person did get it by the end, because all you really had to do is wrap the whole thing in a document.write, and it evals out and will print out the original source code. Someone goes, hey, CB, you got the source code of the Firefox extension? And I knew this was going to happen, so I reached down there you go. Handed him the stack of printed out source code. It was a lot of fun. Like, you're an asshole. I don't have it on me. Yeah. But one of the things Happy Dance did, like I said, was the arbitrary command execution. This was great because I could tell it to send another password back to me or send up an alert box. And I every now and then I'd go like, all right, I'm going to make it say, CP is thirsty. And every now and then someone would bring me a drink, like, what the hell was that about? I'm like, oh, you must be compromised. And got one guy's like, hey, how'd you do that? I'm like, well, I don't know. You tell me. And yeah, after a while, we made it so every time you scored, it would remove the JavaScript limitation from your browser, so there's no script escape. We'd load up Goatsy or Meatspin rather, and then we freeze your browser. So every time you scored, you got points, but now you got to restart your browser, which, by the way, sends your password back and checks for more commands to run.
Restart your browser.
Well, that was a lot of fun. So one of the command trips, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes. All right. One of the command tricks I was doing was I'd send it new location data, so the browser would just go jump around the screen. All right, that's pretty fun, a big deal. But the greatest one, was sending the restart command to Firefox. See the gears turning? Firefox turns on, sends passwords, checks for command to run, runs a command. Oh, restart. Restarts Firefox, sends a password, checks for command. Oh, restart. So you see Firefox popping in and out, popping in and out, popping in and out.
Again, plain text. Nobody saw it.
So, I mean, dozens of times a second, the